Recording in progress.
Hello, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my recent studies and encounters with the mind-body connection. I haven't really talked about the mind-body connection in a while, which I think the last time I talked about it might have been my video about the teeth and the gums. Maybe I did one other thing, I can't remember. But anyways, recently, I had two different things come to light for me regarding my own physical body. And, sorry, I'm watching something smoke and making sure it doesn't catch on fire. And the one was really interesting. So the first one was when Chris and I got engaged, I ended up getting really, really, really bad dandruff. And I was trying all kinds of different shampoos and scalp masks and just different things trying to get my dandruff under control, which was something would work for a little bit and then it would stop working. And I journaled about it too. I googled the spiritual cause of what causes dandruff, which if I remember correctly it was the loss of individuality and the loss of independence and a few other things that were relevant to me at the time of becoming engaged. And then I did the journaling work. I realized where I had commitment issues. I realized where coming together in union did make my individuality and independence feel threatened. However, I worked with my therapist and with flower essences and energy healing modalities to really surrender and lean into it. So I was doing a very comprehensive all over the board thing. And so the dandruff went on for about 8 months, I think. And then it's really interesting because then once we got married, I think about a week into being married, all the dandruff cleared up. So I think even though I was doing those modalities and stuff, which were great and still helped me in different ways, I think my mind, my psyche just really needed to see that I wasn't going to lose my independence and individuality. And then once we were married and I realized everything was still the same, then the dandruff cleared up because then it no longer needed to deliver that message of fearing loss, loss of self, especially after working so hard to regain myself. So that was really interesting. And then another one that was really interesting was Chris ended up having pain in his left heel, and it happened a few months after we got engaged. And I looked up the spiritual cause of it, and it said that left heel pain ties to family hierarchies. His was on the left side, so feminine hierarchies, and this fear of moving forward for fear of disrupting the family constellation, I guess. And so he tried to get past the heel pain. He did it in different ways than me. He did shoe inserts and a little ball thingy to roll on the fascia on the foot, and I think that was what, and maybe he meditated on it. I don't know. We did things differently. But I told him, I was well, if it's that, then honestly, it's probably something to do with your mom and your sister and stuff, because those are the females in his life, and he has a very enmeshed family. And he was no, it's not that. Which I was alright, it's his journey, let him figure it out for himself, And I told him, I was I bet you when we get married that the foot pain will clear up. Because we also had another friend that she had that foot pain when she got engaged, and she was really close to her mom. And her left foot pain went away sometime in the engagement period, I think, a little bit before she did get married. But his went away actually after we got married. And so I think similar to the dandruff, his psyche was oh, the family's still okay, nothing happened, my safety's not threatened, it's just really, really interesting. So maybe for some of you this might resonate. Maybe you have a pain that came on quite suddenly after a big event, and maybe there's some type of like commitment coming up that makes your identity feel threatened, or your place in the family constellation. And no matter what you're trying, maybe it's just a matter of reaching that next chapter. In our case, it was marriage, and just letting the mind see that everything's okay. So like literally just sitting with it. And then after that, it was interesting because like there came a point where with the wedding, like I felt like his sister totally took over our photography, which we paid for, and she also did a toast that we did not give her permission to do, and I just felt really disrespected, and like my feelings weren't taken into consideration at all, and it caused a lot of like bickering and upheaval between Chris and I, because it's just like the first year of marriage, like I've heard several people say that it's like the hardest year, and it didn't click at first, and now it's like clicking. Like there's an adaptation period, and then there's like the merging of two families, which in my case, like it's kind of nice for him because it's like he doesn't have to deal with in-laws and setting boundaries. In the beginning of the relationship, I did kind of communicate boundaries with his mom, and that went well. I love his mom to pieces, and now with the sister, like I was just like, Chris, you need to address this. Like, this is your sister. We paid for photography. We didn't get photos with some of the people that really meant the most to us, because his sister had started like taking photos and asking why so and so wasn't in the photo, and then like other family members like picked up on her energy, that enmeshment, and they started like busting out their phones and taking pictures in groups that like we hadn't assigned, and like it was just super frustrating. And then my people were all like on standby waiting their turns to take photos, and so it was just interesting comparing all of it. So then there was that, and then with the wedding toast, like we had purposely done 3 toasts per person to keep it like balanced, and then that way like we each had someone speak for us, but also like that way it wasn't like brought to light like the absence of my biological family members, because I mean that was a big part of my grieving process leading up to getting married, was like the absence of biological family members. I even had a huge grief upheaval like after we got married, like after the honeymoon. And just this last week I've had even more of that come up. So it's just like grief has been a theme for me all year, as my body feels safe in the environment I've created for myself to properly grieve certain biological family members that are living but not living in my life, you know. So then his sister went up there and she did a toast because this is me picking up on what was going on, but she did a toast basically because she felt left out, and like she had to be up there or else she was being excluded, and I think she felt threatened that another person was taking her spot in the family tree, which isn't the case at all, but it's just like that was the vibes I was picking up. And then it just really upset me, because I was just like, no respect, you know. And then like about a year ago at this time, I had a really close friend named Monica that passed away, and I had to drive back home and attend the funeral, which I stayed with Chris's parents on that trip for the first time, like by myself. And his sister knew that I was driving into town, and she knew I'd be there at a certain time, and like an hour and a half into the drive she was like freaking out, which like I looked at the phone when she called and I could just feel all this anxiety coming off the phone, and I was like, ugh, like I'm not in the mood to deal with this, like I'm grieving the loss of like a really close friend, you know. So then I collected myself and called her back, and then I asked her like what it was she wanted, and then she was like, oh, like I want you to like make sure you wear a mask when you like are around my kids and blah blah blah, which we were supposed to be outside swimming, and I'm like, I'm not wearing a mask outside, sorry bro. And so then I was like, if you want, like I'll just go ahead and pull over at Elephant Butte, which was like an hour and a half away from where I was headed. and wait for you to pick up your children. And then she was like, okay, thank you so much. And like, she just made it all about herself, you know? So like, that was the first time like something happened with us. And then it was never addressed. Like, I didn't feel like I was in a place to address her. His mom didn't address her. He didn't address her. His dad didn't address her. Nobody addressed her. And I felt highly disrespected, and I felt like I got dumped on when I was like grieving. Like, it was not cool. So then with the wedding, again, like, there's the grief energy leading up to the wedding, and then there his sister is with all her anxiety and feelings of being left out and just needing to control things. And she like did the toast, which, like, I don't know, I had a few people even ask, like, who was that? Like, that felt really petty, and like, yeah, so no bueno. So then after our honeymoon, it was about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks after we were married, probably 3 weeks after we were married, I told Chris that he needed to address his sister, so then that way I would have an opening to talk to her, because like, you gotta keep things relevant with matters of the heart and in-laws and stuff like that. So then he did address her, and then I went ahead and I sent her an email, because for those that do know me, I prefer writing when it comes to communicating heavy things, because I feel like I come off a lot more concise and a lot more like from the heart and less like triggered, and at least I can like delete and backspace things and make sure things come off more like smoothly and lovingly. So I did send her an email addressing the whole thing, and then that just like blew up in my face, because then she like basically did what my family does, and she kind of triangulated and like got Chris, her husband, and tried to get her mom involved, and like knew that I didn't talk to like any of these people except for Chris, and like that brought up like grief wounds, because my bio mom used to do that to me all the time, like triangulate my siblings against I. And then so it was just like really, really rough. And then I still tried to keep my cool and calm about it all, but then when she finally emailed me back, like, she didn't acknowledge like any of my points, because I was like, can you like please not dump all your anxiety on me when I'm going through like big life events? Like, it's not cool, and I don't appreciate it, and I don't appreciate that like the photography like got all screwed up, and like she just wasn't accountable. She didn't acknowledge anything. She made it all about herself and all about her feelings, and then she had the nerve to tell me like she forgave me, you know. It's just like, okay, whatever. So then I emailed her again, trying to reorient her and recenter her back to the original points that I was making, and she still missed the point. And then like Chris and I were like fighting all ugly, because he was defending his little sister, and he has his own triggers and inner child stuff coming up. Like, it was all really sloppy, messy, heavy time the last several weeks. And so then I remember the words from one of my favorite like, I guess YouTube teachers, I don't know, Kyle Cease. He was talking about in one video how like when you let go of attachment to getting someone to understand you, that's when you let go of a narrative, that's when you expand, that's when things shift. And it just got to the point with his sister and with Chris that like she wasn't going to understand me, and I just had to let it go, and I had to let go of the narrative, which I realized the narrative had a lot to do with like when I was younger, and like I was highly misunderstood by my bio mom and my grandma mom, and nobody would hear me. They would just mark me off as having a temper tantrum, or put me with a new psychologist or psychotherapist, and then have me on meds and then take me off meds, and like I just was not being heard, and none of my pain was being acknowledged. It was just how I was like a nuisance to my caretakers basically, and so it was all about them and their pain. And that was the narrative that I was attached to. And so, interestingly, with like the last email exchange between his sister and I woke up with strep throat, and I haven't had strep throat in like 9 years. And I was just like, oh my gosh, buddy, what are you trying to tell me right now? So then I Googled it, and strep throat says that it appears when you're having difficulty swallowing a situation. And it also can appear when you're having exaggerated anger, which if I like look long and hard at myself. Like, yeah, I had a right to be angry with her, but I didn't need to hold on to it as much as I was. Like, I said my points, I communicated clearly, like, I did good. And I did not need to, like, let things get bigger and bigger inside of my body, you know. Like my tonsils, they got bigger and bigger because I was just letting that anger fester. And then, like, swallowing the situation, yeah, I was having a really hard time swallowing the situation of, like, his sister not respecting boundaries, not knowing how to communicate properly, because, like, him and his sister both communicate very, very similar, obviously because they're raised by, like, the same people. But it's just, like, I was tired and I was at a breaking point where it's like, I cannot keep carrying my husband's emotional well-being on top of, like, modeling how to do, like, healthy communication for him and now his sister. Like, it was just too much. And so my body brought it to my attention by bringing on Strep Throat. Like, hey girl, like, you're having a hard time swallowing this. Like, you just need to let go of attachment to this narrative, so that way you can swallow and stomach and digest and process and eliminate this from your energy field, you know. And so I went ahead and I journaled about it, and then I started my homeopathic remedies for strep, which I haven't had to use in years, but they still work like a charm. Like, I use cayenne pepper with water, sometimes with a little lemon, and then I also do saltwater gargles. So I, like, sip on the cayenne and the water, like, all day long for, like, 3 days, and then I do the gargles in the morning, in the middle of the day, and in the evening. And so the strep went away. And then, like, once I had decided to let go of attachment to that narrative, like, I had a huge grief-filled moment where all these tears came up, some that I was aware of where they came from and some I wasn't. And I allowed myself to feel them and to cry them and to process them, and then I let it go. And, yeah, it's just really fascinating to me how the body will have these ailments that are, like, trying to talk to you. If you only, like, take the time to listen, which then I think back to when I had strep throat in Denver. I had it, like, 5 months in a row, like, 6 years ago. Part of it was because I had, like, wisdom teeth coming through, but then, I mean, at the same time, when I look at that part of my life, like, that was when I was pretty much estranged from my younger siblings on my dad's side, and that was really when I got into, like, alcoholism and, like, to cope with the pain of, like, losing my siblings and with the pain of, like, my dad not living up to, like, my inner child's expectations, and just, like, feeling so hurt and betrayed and neglected, and I wasn't swallowing the situation well at all. So then I kept getting strep over and over and over, and then, I mean, it's right there by the throat, which communication, you know. So yeah, looking back, it just makes so much sense too. Like, I wish I knew a lot of this stuff that I know now all those years ago, but then all those years ago brought me to now, so, I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, I don't know. I hope this video is helpful to y'all. We covered dandruff and left heel pain and strep throat. There's many other topics we can cover. Maybe I will start making more videos on those. Anywho, if you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, so that way you can stay up to date on new videos. And then hopefully I'm back within a few weeks with another mind-body video, or else at least, like, a Reiki transmission or something. Alright, take care, be well, namaste.